Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's June 7th, 2015, and this week we're going to do a lesson covering rock guitar soloing. Now, this week's question was sent in from Tom D. He's out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and he wrote in with this email. I'm trying to improve my sound when it comes to playing rock lead guitar. I've been working more on blues and playing solos over blues changes. The only thing is when it comes to doing a rock solo, there seems to be more notes than in the blues or minor pentatonic. The bends, slides, and phrasing are different too. Could you cover the basics of rock guitar soloing in a video? From Tom D. in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, USA. Well, thanks for writing in, Tom. There's a definite change that needs to happen when making the shift from playing over standard blues progressions and then moving into the world of playing over classic rock or hard rock or heavy metal. Now, each of these rock styles requires a different approach, but there is a common thread that can apply to cover the idea of playing, rock guitar solos in general. And this will involve greater use of the 7-tone natural minor scale, and we'll need to apply more phrasing devices from the tones of natural minor combined with minor pentatonic. And although the blues scale can certainly work in rock, its use isn't as abundant as we'd find in just traditional blues changes. So let's get over to the examples that I put together for this lesson and start checking those out next. Well, playing a decent sounding rock lead means learning how to combine both the 5-tone minor pentatonic scale alongside of the 7-tone natural minor scale. Now, by learning how to blend these two scales in a way that creates a lot of drive and a lot of push in the rhythmic meter, we can start to get the best musical effect out of the scales within this style of music. Now, in my first example, I have a chord progression that's in the key of E minor. To solo over this progression, I'm just going to use some E minor pentatonic and some E natural minor. The chord changes are all pretty straightforward, just power chords from E down into a C, up to D, and then we're going to head to B chord, and then just build up again, C, D, and then just repeat. Now, just playing on the bare bones side of things with what's going on with the guitar melody that I wrote here, it goes like this. So what's happening there is I'm starting off in the minor pentatonic, and then I'm shifting over to the natural minor. So when we're in pentatonic, we're just basically dealing with that 5-tone scale. Now, when I shift over to the full 7-tone natural minor, I'm getting all those tones, very linear sound. E, F sharp, G. I got a 16th note triplet in there. It's going to be a hammer-on pull-off slide. Sounds real nice. Sort of talking about embellishments and so forth. So that's going to bring in a D as well. There's also going to be the B note in the lower end on the 4th string there, and then we have the C, bringing things in, from the back, into the E again. So it's also got an A. I forgot to mention the A there on the 4th string, 7th fret. So anyway, what I want to do next is I've got a full jam track, backing track for this. I want to fire up the distortion, get into a real good rock mode of playing, and just blast through this lead melody against these chord changes with the backing track. So let's do that right now. In my next example, I wanted to shift into another playing concept that we're going to find in a lot of classic rock and rock stuff, heavy metal stuff, all that. It's the idea of playing around with sequenced lines that use a lot of string crossing technique. And in order to apply this kind of idea, we're going to often find string skips and slides used to connect the shapes laterally and the phrases along the neck. And if we compare the typical blues lead to, let's say, a classic rock lead, we don't generally find a lot of lateral movement, a lot of busy string skipping with sequence melody in blues, at least not as much as we're going to find in rock and metal. So basically, the part that I came up with is going to be played over top of another E minor idea. It's going to start off on E, and it's going to go to G and D. Then we're going to have a C come in, and then we're going to have an A at the end there. And on that, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some string skipping concepts here around sort of an E minor concept. So you can hear that sort of broken sound. There's also a little arpeggio concept in there. And that's kind of taking around the sounds of E minor 7 arpeggio. And after that, we're just going to climb up. We're going to have that bend, release, pull off idea. And, that's just going to sort of wrap the line up. But you can hear as it builds from the bottom of the 5th string sound there. So that's that climb up that's kind of skipping along. We're doing some work in a sort of sequenced manner through the scale tones there. And then we have our bend, release, pull off idea. So again, what I'm going to do is move over to the world of the jam track stuff and just get this line fired up with some good fat distortion sound and just play this thing over top of the chord changes with the jam track so you can really hear how this thing sounds with the backing track behind it. One more idea I definitely wanted to cover when it comes to the idea of playing rock lead guitar is the use of double stops and different intervallic styles of playing. And, again, this is something that we're going to find in some of the blues lead guitar ideas out there, but when it's applied in blues, we never really find it played very much along the full scale tones of the full 7-tone natural minor scale. So in my final example, I'm going to use a 4th interval, a 3rd intervals, and 6th intervals to create a very cool sounding rock lead guitar solo idea that I think you're going to quickly recognize right away as a very common sound in rock lead guitar solos. So what's going to happen here first let's talk about the harmony that we're using. We're going to have an E chord dropping in for C and D, just kind of climbing up. Come back to the E again, that's going to drop down to D, then the D is going to drop down to C. So the whole thing's going to be... All right, so that's the chord progression we're going to have going on in the background. And when it comes to the lead, we're going to be using a little bit of pentatonic up front. We have a 4th interval starting things off. So there's our bit of pentatonic with that 4th interval kicking it off there. Then we're going to head into some 3rd ideas here. You can hear that slide. Then we're getting in more to full 7-tone natural minor scale now. Then we're going to head with some more natural minor. We're going to do some 6th intervals next. The first thing that happens there, we have a hammer on 4th string. And we're just sort of pedaling between the 2 6th intervals there. Dropping down to a little 2-note chord idea. And then we're going to do a slide idea to take it down one step further, because remember the chord progression is going E to D and then D to C, so that's getting covered by way of... So the whole thing's going to go... All right, so we're really tracking those chords quite closely with all the intervals, and then also some nice pentatonic stuff up at the front. So anyway, let's fire up the jam track with the full distortion on, and really give this thing a rock lead guitar solo effect, and give you a chance to hear how all this sounds when it comes together. You know, performing classic rock or heavy metal or blues rock guitar solos will mean that you need to develop a broad cross-section of ways that you use your scales and your techniques. For many guitar players, you know, in general, the road to playing lead guitar will certainly have a lot to do with both blues and rock music styles. And the songs in these styles will almost always have solos in them, and through these solos, you know, probably you're going to be performing all kinds of different lines based on a blues scale, pentatonic, and eventually getting more and more into the full natural minor. Now, although you probably won't be performing a busy technical solo, like say perhaps Eddie Van Halen or something, we will very likely have much more that we're thinking about in the way that we'd play a rock lead compared to how we'd play a blues lead. So use the ideas that I've discussed in this lesson as a way to begin bridging the gap between playing basic blues lead guitar and how you'll make the move over to eventually playing more rock and classic rock and heavy metal styles. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel here, and if possible, consider a small donation to help fund the guitar lessons project I got going on here. Otherwise, have yourself a really great week, and I will catch up with you next time. Bye for now. I'd like to take a moment to mention another guitar video lesson project I've started. It's a unique guitar lesson approach that I'm doing online, and it's not like anything I've done before. Best of all, it's 100% free. I've called this approach Guitar Micro Lessons, and they're a great way to learn a few new licks or riffs or chord shapes each week. Now, these guitar micro lessons are quick and easy to learn from. They're very short, with each lesson running between only 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes in length. They're published to YouTube from Monday to Thursday on my other Guitar Blog Update YouTube channel, and you can either subscribe to that channel to guarantee getting each new episode, or just visit the channel whenever it's convenient for you and check out the new micro lessons in the playlist on the Guitar Blog Update channel's homepage. The Music Reading Phase 1 ebook has over 30 pages of comprehensive project lessons covering the entire fifth reading position on the guitar. Music reading charts and drills will work to help students memorize the placement of the fifth position notes, including important sharp and flat tones. Several original and classic pieces of sheet music will help students to gain a solid understanding for this region of the neck. Rhythm studies, duration examples, plus song and location drills along with 19 MP3 audio tracks makes this one of the best music reading courses available online. Music Reading Phase 1 is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.